Hello, my name is Ronaldo Isaacs. I'm talking about my FMP. I don't currently have a working title. For the genre, I'm primarily aiming at a PC audience. It'll be more of an indie title, as well as aiming for ages 12 upwards. For the actual plan, I plan on making a 3 to 5 minute short cutscene animation. The basic narrative overall is this game that explores an evil theme RPG where you're a young hero tasked with finding a lost power, and this power takes the form of a shard. The shard, when found, will then change the entire world around you. As to what this means is I plan on having a function where it will shift in its graphic detail, moving from a 32-bit to 64-bit and so on, till eventually ending up maybe 3D. For the format, in terms of visuals, I tend to use brighter colours as I want to keep the world kind of bright and interesting, but I also would like to use slightly hazer brightness, like to make it seem more mysterious and like, oh, there's real oldness to the world. In terms of the audio, I primarily would like to use things like wind instruments, harps, and I'll source them online because I want to keep it feeling light-hearted and cheery. For the actual cutscene, what I plan on using is you'll be a human warrior and you'll be with a village under attack, and midway through the attack you'll fall into a pit where you'll find the first shard, and the first shift will happen. That will be the cutscene. For technical aspects, I plan on having a third-person perspective looking over your character, and I would think this will allow the best kind of just like visual as to when it shifts over from the like 32-bit to 64-bit. You'll be able to see everything around you change as well as your character looking stronger. In terms of the last couple of years, a lot of things have come out to help me. A lot of things like I could do a lot of work at home through Pascal, which is a great pixel program, as it allows me to do work anywhere as long as I have internet access. So that has heavily helped me. In terms of inspiration, I'm taking heavy inspiration from a game known as Evoland. The game is a similar concept, except it's already pre-made and it's amazing. Highly recommend it. Anyone to play it.
So is this a shot from it now?
Yeah, there's the two shots, and so on the left you can see it's more pixelate, and on the right is after you've done quite a few upgrades, and you see it's shifted to light-hearted kind of 3D.
Okay.
And it keeps going eventually, and it gets better and better. But when you first start off, it has no colour, no sound, black and white, really low pixel.
More like a sort of Game Boy style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to unlock everything from the music to colour to eventually upgrading. Even things like combat and health all have to be unlocked. Issues and debates. There are two issues, one of which is larger than the other one. Firstly, is just the representation of females in fantasy. I would like to avoid any negative representation, and I shift more towards like, if the female's a warrior, she'll be heavily clad in armor, more fitting with actual realistic armors. The second is less of an issue, more of just more of a, how do I put the word? It's like habit found often in fantasy games, and that's just the representation of different races in the thing. So I often found that things like elves are always like quite regal, and I think it'd be interesting to just flip the idea on some of this, like not too extreme, but just enough where it makes it refreshing, as I feel like that would allow it to appeal to a larger audience, as by changing it, it means that both newer players and older players for the genre would have a refreshing idea and be able to look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, as well as because I'm representing females as slightly stronger and less skimpily clad, it could appeal more to women as well. So I'd have a much larger audience be able to pull in more money. In terms of the actual audience, as I said, is a 12 plus, and I'd hopefully like to appeal to an overall demographic. I'm not targeting any particular gender or group. The product itself, it will be a small animation with a title. As well as I feel like, due to the way the market is currently rising, there's quite a large gap for my game, having like a large availability for fantasy, as most of the games nowadays are all first-person shooters, and there's a big rise in battle royale games, and so that creates quite a big spot in the market. However, just because it's a spot doesn't mean it will necessarily be well received, as there's a reason there's risen, but hopefully I could sneak it in and get quite a lot of things. As well as because of everything I'm doing, I could get quite a lot of publicity, and I would actually deploy a kind of guerrilla marketing scheme using social media and influential people to help spread the game across different formats. Resources and timescale. For the time management, I plan to effectively use my Gantt chart as well as setting myself small goals to reach these little milestones. I'll be using Pascal, Photoshop, Sketchbook, Adobe After Effects, and Premiere. I will mainly be using school computers as well as my home computer, making assets and then animating them in class time, as well as outside of class time during free days like Tuesday. In terms of Foley, I don't think I have anything I could particularly make for my game, as I don't have access to any of the instruments nor know how to play them. So I'll have to source my songs and music all online, hopefully finding royalty-free songs, or potentially finding different pieces and trying to compose it, but that in itself would be quite hard. In terms of the textures, I plan to go with a slightly lower resolution, like cartoonish colour, keeping everything light, and I'll attempt to create all the assets myself. Rationale and threats. For future progression, I plan to go on an animation course in university. As such, I will be focusing on animations from small to large scale animations, such as a bush moving in the wave to an explosion of a building. Career, I would like to be a freelance animator working in a variety of different projects and fields such as TV, games, possibly even film if the chance arises. I plan to gain experience through freelancing until I have a strong enough resume where I can potentially join such a larger company or work on an even larger project. Thank you for listening.
Awesome.
Sorry about that, my nose is blocked, so it's really hard.
No, I appreciate that. That's really good. So what do we have? Anybody
Questions?
have questions? Yeah.
Alex.
At the beginning, you said it would be based on computer only. Like, if obviously I can understand that because we're working on computers and it's easier to make. But if the game was actually a thing, would you allow it to be on console? And
I think I would keep it on things like Steam, and then see how it's kind of received. If I think like, it's working quite well, I could adapt it for other consoles like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. But it's just, I don't want to go on to those because it takes a lot of time to kind of make it adaptable for those. I don't know if the project will work that well straight away. As well as I think the market for this kind of game works better on PC.
Yeah, I'd agree. As well as that, you mentioned like elves and like the stereotypes of those, which I'm kind of doing as well. But would you kind of include them as NPCs or enemies, or is it?
Yeah, so I'm not dead set on what the raiders will be, but I'd like to change kind of like just the way things are viewed. So I could potentially maybe have an orc NPC in the village as being an attack, and he's a nice one, and then maybe have the elf attacking you. It's just a change from the norm.
Yeah. And lastly, like you said, you get all your stuff from the internet for Foley sounds. If that wasn't like available to you and you couldn't find a certain noise or something like that, would you ask a friend to help you with that, or is it just
I'd have to ask around because I don't really know exactly people who 100% know how to play those kind of instruments.
Yeah.
And if not, I could change the actual thing to more modern music, but I'd have to keep something more fitting with the theme. So if I had a guitar, it would have to still be a light, kind of like fairy light, as I think music can affect the game quite a lot. I can't have rock music in it because this wouldn't feel the same. Chris?
Two things. Seeing as you're planning on changing some of the roles, not massively, would you have to change like everything, including the music goes along with it and everything like that?
I don't think music would have to change heavily, as it could still be light-hearted and that. It's just I think music often reflects what's happening, so it'd be slightly faster paced during the event of the thing. But say if I look at a female, it won't become like kind of like the thriving music. It will reflect the kind of character.
Yeah.
Did you have a second question?
You said it's going to be like different from all the other what kind of games? Magic, RPG games on the market. How are you gonna get across that yours is like a good thing to go towards, and because it's different, how will it attract those people?
As I said, I do plan to change it, and I plan to kind of use that kind of change as publicity. As because it'll be slightly different, I think people will look at it and they'll probably news articles on it, as well as in terms of marketing, I'll use the opinion leader theory, getting people popular on social media, Instagram, to kind of like share it around, as I find there's a lot of that game sharing around, and just trying to catch people through that, through getting followers and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Justin?
You said you're going from like a simplistic to more of a 3D. Would the perspective change? Like you go from a top down to like or even a side view, and then to a top down to then more 3D?
It would change slightly, as you imagine going from a 2D flat image to a 3D. It would change slightly with it, but not heavily. I wouldn't change full perspective. I wouldn't go from first person to third person. It'd be better to some change.
Is it like gradual then, where
it would be gradual? It wouldn't be like
so each level
jump
you kind of
from. I wouldn't jump from 32-bit to 3D.
No. Is that so? That's what you were saying was the sort of core mechanic of the Evoland example.
Yeah.
How does your game differ from Evoland?
I think it was the story as well as the world.
Okay.
As Evoland, there wasn't much of a story straight away.
Yeah.
It was more of just trying to build the game, and then you had a story.
Okay.
Whereas I'll have a story straight from the start, and I plan to kind of go into the world.
Right.
And giving it some explanation of why it's like this and how this powers work.
Okay. And so your character levels, and then they turn from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional.
So they find these artifacts, and the artifacts kind of like unlock magic.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't want to animate crazy magic, which is why I've kept the world a bit simpler in terms of magic, which is why these artifacts are so powerful.
Yeah.
And they allow the change.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much actual detail is the cutscene animation going to go into the story or the characters and how the world sort of came to be in the game?
It won't give much history on the character itself, as the character's not really important. It's more just to kind of show what these things can do. In terms of the world, I will give some kind of background, maybe like on the loading screen, just give like a rundown, but like Star Wars, just like a little run up of like past events, like the world's at war, the world's assault, things like that.
So is it a cutscene like in the game itself? Like something would happen, then you'd get this cutscene.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I see. So in terms of what you're producing, I know you specified 3 to 5 minutes. Do you feel that's quite a length of time in terms of animation? Do you feel
after discussing to quite a few people, I found that is actually quite a lot. As even a 1 minute animation is highly detailed, it takes quite a while.
Yeah.
However, because I'm working in 32-bit to 64-bit, I think I'll see kind of like how fast production goes.
Yeah.
I could lengthen it if my production's going particularly fast.
Yeah.
But I'm just keeping it currently there, and I can leave room for stretch goals.
Okay. So reduce it to, like you said, a minute of highly detailed stuff, but then
So it would just be, would just see which works the best. As I don't want to go, I'll have a 10-minute animation highly detailed, and then I'm midway through it, like, cool, I've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. I just worry about like 3 to 5 is quite a length in terms of an ambitious target, and you don't necessarily want to not meet that. So your teaser trailer will show, as you said, it shows the transition from maybe 32 to 64.
Yeah.
Do you worry that that's like a little bit subtle in terms of maybe not being able to fully show off the core, if that's the core mechanic that you're almost starting off from really low 8-bit or through to 3D?
I did some experimental drawings, and I found that it's enough of a change to actually like see.
Yeah.
As well as I think because you'd have a wider view of the world, because you're in third person, be able to see subtle changes.
Okay.
Like, for instance, a 32-bit sword and 64-bit sword look very much different.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, I really like the mechanic, and I think that's really cool.
If need be, I could jump to maybe a potentially higher one.
Yeah.
If that would help.
Maybe like the ending or something like that. I was thinking to show the full mechanic off, and maybe that subtlety of that small change in the trailer would be lost. At the end, maybe the character from the first state just like transitioning right through, like
I could have like a spread of like 32-bit and an end in 3D.
Yeah, that would be quite nice. I think just to kind of really show that's like then that's almost like the, you know, when you see the drawings of evolution,
Yeah.
they're kind of like right up through to
I
the
could
final
actually do
thing.
that technically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, something like that. I think
Yeah.
would be quite a nice idea.
I could give it a shot if I just note that down.
Yeah. And you were saying about audio, and I fully agree in terms of like that maybe isn't your emphasis, and your rationale behind what you're doing is justified in terms of what you applied to do and where you're going after. But in terms of audio, it's sort of like what you're covering as well. Again, using sound generators, or making sure you focus on sort of the relevant sound to that style. You know, not realistic sounds, but like 8-bit audio or like low, you know, low polyphonic audio and things like that would be useful. I think to look at that it'll make it sort of, again, it'll tie it together. That'd be a good thing to look at. But no, it seems well considered. Anyone else got any other thoughts on that? Nope.